Welcome to the Lab of Life podcast. I'm your co-host, Raluca, energy healer, intuitive, homeopath, and inner voice guide.
And I'm Lena, scientific mystic and metapsychologist. We're here to explore spirituality, ancient wisdom, and cutting-edge science to optimize our human experience.
Life is complex, and we're here to simplify it for you by sharing practical insights and strategies that will inspire and empower you to unlock your full potential. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lab of Life podcast. Today, we're excited to have a guest with us, Megan, who is a human design reader and a breathwork practitioner, and we're excited to dive in and learn all about what she does and her journey. Thank you for joining us, Megan.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited.
We were looking for a human design practitioner for a while because we did like a whole series on human design and we couldn't really find anyone who we connect to on this particular topic. So I'm super excited to have you here. We're going to ask you so many questions.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about what you do and your practice, and yeah, we'll start there.
Sure. Well, I am a fairly new human design reader. Actually, Raluca introduced me to the concept of human design like a year ago. So I didn't even know what it was before that. But the moment I discovered it, there was a validation I felt that I had never felt before that kind of catapulted me on this journey that eventually made me just dive into it every day for a year. And I feel really called to share it with the world because of how much wisdom it has and how practical it is, and how, I guess, like non-dogmatic it is too. Like it really calls us back to ourselves and our inner wisdom. So those are the things I love about it.
And do you do breath work as well?
Yes. So one of the things I discovered on my own journey and integrating my design was that, and human design in general, like none of us are here to make decisions from our mind. And in human design, all of our authorities and inner wisdoms come from a place within our bodies. So we need to feel connected to our bodies. If we're not feeling connected, we will turn to our mind to make decisions for us, and our mind will always lead us in the wrong direction, or the direction that's not the most aligned for us. So on my journey of self-discovery, I realized how disconnected from my body I was. So I went on this entire journey of like becoming attuned to Reiki, diving into my personal breathwork practice to really bring me back into my body. And in doing that, I fell in love with breathwork and the space it holds for people. And I realized in order to give human design guidance, there's levels. So level 1 is really that validation, right? And there's going to be pieces that resonate with us right away. And that's great. Validation is awesome, and it could feel really good. But then there's another layer to our design where it can feel confronting, like it resonates, but it makes us look at our lives and go, yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice if I could live that way, right? Like, but we live in the real world. I could never, take naps during the day because my energy tells my, design tells me I need to, or things like that, right? So it can be really confronting. And what we decide to do with that information, we can take, 2 paths. We can do nothing, or we can start to integrate it. And again, that integration and embodiment really comes down to what feels good in our body and how much resilience we have. And if we can connect to our emotions and label them and understand what our true wants and desires are. And breathwork for me was the thing that cracked me open and allowed me to get really honest with myself And what it did for me is what I want it to do for other people too. So for me, just giving that reading isn't enough. We need to integrate and embody, and people need more support in doing that. So I went to breathwork facilitation training and did a bunch of hours there and really learned how to hold space for people and hold space for people with a trauma-informed lens, and help support them through that work. So those are my two passions, and I'm finding a way to kind of bring them together. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so when somebody comes for human design, you also work with them with breath work. And would this be would you do it in a group environment, or is it a one-on-one coaching style?
Yeah, so my offerings today are, I will do a general reading if that's what somebody wants. My passion really lies in that one-to-one work, deep work, and integration. So first would be a reading and me really getting to know you. Like, I'm not interested in just like reading your design and being like, this is you. I want to know how it shows up for you and how it feels to you, and I always give like practical tips. Usually at the end of my sessions, I say, okay, what's in your calendar for the next 2 to 3 weeks? And depending on what's going on in your life, I'll create some experiments to try within those containers in your life and those things in your calendars to help you apply the concepts you learn about your design or the things that you're not quite feeling comfortable with. That's the thing with design, is like, it's an experiment, right? Like, and no two people are alike. No two generators are alike. It's, there's so much nuance in the chart, but it's not just that. It's our lived experience that really expresses our design. So your life is going to color the way your design shows up for you. And so it's really important for me to take a really practical approach to it, and make you feel empowered to try it out and to experiment. And beyond that, we would do a reading and we would get into those kinds of things. And from there, I would do a guided breathwork session with essentially a custom facilitation, a custom guide that I write for you according to where you're susceptible to your most conditioning based on your design. And so we go into some deep, conscious connected breath work to take you out of your mind, put you in your body, and do some healing in those areas that where we're most susceptible to conditioning.
Nice. So what is your design? And so after you say your design, how did it feel like for you to learn about your design? Because for me, it was like, oh my God, this is me. Oh, thank God, I now know that I'm not crazy. All those experiences are necessary. So it was like very profound when I learned my design and I started learning about myself through the human design. So tell us how it was for you.
Yeah. So I'm a projector, and I was so floored at the like accuracy and again that validation, because and I think this goes for a lot of projectors. We are designed to live in a world made by generators and mani-gens, right? Where we are told we need to work 8 hours a day, where we're meant to do what's in our gut. What's your gut feeling, and we don't have that as a projector. So for me, I felt like I was lazy, like I was too tired to live in society, like I was like it just felt I was really hard on myself for a long time. So learning just my aura, my energy type, was like, whoa, hold on. There's like another way to do this, and I'm supposed to lean into that, and that's what's going to bring me success. Like, it was I was so excited. I was like excited for life again, essentially.
That's amazing.
But then I know, but then there are other parts of it too. So I have an emotional authority.
Mm.
And so I'm meant to like ride the waves of my emotions. And so I started experimenting with that. And I went, okay, what is this wave they're talking about? Like I actually I live within a pretty narrow spectrum of emotions. Like, what's that about? How am I supposed to make decisions from how I feel if I'm disconnected from how I feel? So again, it was that like, okay, now I have to do all this work to like get back into my body so that I can just use this very basic signpost of my design and my authority and decision making. So it really is the thing that led me on this entire journey this year. But every single piece of my design, and it's funny, the more you get into alignment, the more things resonate. So there was some stuff that just like for me, I'm a 4/6 profile. So my network and my community are where I find my opportunities. And a year ago, I was like, I have like 3 friends. Like, what network, what community are we talking about? Like, who am I here to influence, right? But as I step more into alignment with my purpose, my community is opening up. My influence is more apparent, you know. So there's aspects that just kind of unlock and keep unlocking. And as you know, there's so many layers to your design. So it's a journey, and it's a really, really fun one if you take it as an experiment, you know?
What is 4/6? Like, because my daughter has the same profile, and I know we did the whole breakdown, but still, give us a little bit of a refresher. So we did
Yeah,
do the
so
breakdown of on all the profiles in our series on human design, but what is 4/6 from your point of view, and how? Like, what's the summary of it?
yeah, so the first line 4 is the conscious part of your personality. So it's the piece that you may connect with right away. If you're, living in alignment a little bit, which I wasn't, but makes sense now. Then the 6 is the role model. So it's using your wisdom and experience to influence your network. So, and it's the way the 6, the unconscious side of you, or your second line, is the way other people might perceive you first when they see you. So I think you guys are both a 6 too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. I'd love to know how that plays in your lives right now.
Well, go ahead, Raluca. You go first.
Being a 6/2. Okay, well, the 6/2 were meant to lead by example. And so I think the 2 part is the hermit mode. And
Mhm.
I very much experienced that. And that's the part that I struggle with the most because, for like example, right now I'm supposed to be in a rest phase. Like, my cards keep telling me that. Lena keeps telling me that when we do a healing session, like I'm going through an integration. And like the 2 is supposed to be like, yeah, it's pulling me to do like a hermit. But the other part of me is like, no, we need to keep moving forward. So I'm really struggling with that part right now. I'm struggling with that part. But
Do you have examples in your life of times where when you did go into rest, it worked out for the best?
it always worked out for the
Yes.
best. But I always spot myself on it. And I'm still like, it's the hard part is that you don't know when the end is in sight, right? It's not like the universe gives you a deadline. Well, sometimes maybe, but I don't like believe it. Like you just need to rest for this amount of time and then everything's going to be fine. Then you're going to have energy again and we're going to go into it. You don't know
think,
the end.
yeah, I totally. I think the faster you get into your hermit, the less resistance you have for it, the quicker that
Yeah.
you'll move through it, right?
Yeah.
So it's nice.
I
It's fun to have those times, those examples where it's worked out, and you can kind of pull on that, right, as you go forward.
Yeah, I do think it's her generator too. It's like I have to be going, 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 going. And
Yeah.
what is your authority?
Mine?
Raluca, yeah.
Oh, I'm sacral.
Sacral. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's for no wait, all generators have sacral authority or no?
They do. Some can be emotional authority.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 So in that case, it would be you might have to wait for clarity, but it's still going to be this like yes or no from your gut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I don't think. Well, no, maybe I struggle a little bit with that being a hermit, but I'm definitely leaning into that more now, especially given my age. And when I understood that what the six means, for me, the six was the most profound portion because all my life, like I would go from experience to experience to experience, and it was a hard time for me to finish things. Like I would get into something, get excited, and like, okay, I'm done with it. I don't need it anymore. And then on top of that, I had like very profound life experiences like very traumatic, very like life changing. And I'm like, why is this happening to me? But now it makes sense. I'm a six. I need to collect those experiences, those tools, everything in my toolbox, then to, integrate and then in the future influence others and teach others on how to go through those experiences. So that was a profound moment, but also learning that I'm a manifester and that I don't have the constant energy surge, and it's okay to rest, and it's okay to just kind of give yourself some space when you don't have the energy and don't try to be a generator.
Mm.
So those were like really, really important experiences for me.
Yeah. And I feel the six too, like I've always wanted to just like be myself and kind of lead by example, or just like I just want to be myself and that's what I want to do. Like I just want to show up and be myself. So I've always felt drawn to that, but it's like I haven't quite perfected or like built my
Like your method
my
or
method.
yeah.
That's what six two do.
Mhm.
Six twos do. They build like their methodology, and that they're
Their
just
own
embodied in
system.
that their
Yeah.
own system. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like mine's not fully built yet.
Mhm.
So I'm not like fully stepped into that, but that's all I want to
But the
do.
journey is part of it,
It
right?
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially like, because of your age, you're just stepping into the next phase of the six, right? So like this is the time, the next 15, 20 years is like it's going to be a long journey. You're not meant to figure it out right now. And I think, you know, I think what it's funny. I went to Eureka for an Akashic Records reading, right? And probably like most people, you go and you want answers. You want like tangible, this is what you're meant to do with your life, go do it, and it's never, that's never the message you're going to get because the whole point of the human experience is to experience the journey to get to your thing. Like, and in hindsight, I can say, that makes complete sense. At the time, I'm like, I still want someone to just tell me what it is I'm here to do, right? And how to do it. But if I didn't go through what I went through the past year, I'd have nothing to talk about with you today, right? I have no experiences to share, no wisdom. Like, so, hindsight's always easier. But
That's
really, if
so true.
yeah.
That's such a good point because that would have been so boring if your guides were just like, hey, you need to go be a human design practitioner and to be a breathwork practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd
Yeah,
be like,
like
why?
yeah, it wouldn't have landed, right? Like, first of all, I wasn't ready for it. What was human design? Like, what did it mean to be a breathwork practitioner? Like, if I went into it again, like, I feel like if I got that information, I would have just processed it with my mind. And I would have been like, logically, that makes no sense. Like, that wasn't even on my radar. So I probably would have just dismissed it, even if you did give me the answer. But what's funny is then in our conversation after, the two things you said were, I think you need to meet up with this breathwork facilitator I know. And I think you need to look up your human design. It was like so profound now. Because it really did, like, it was divine timing. It was the perfect timing. I was searching. You gave me these seeds to water. Or you watered seeds that were already inside me, actually, is how I'll phrase that. And I took it seriously. And so, yeah, I want to thank you, Raluca, for that, because this is full circle. I truly wouldn't be here talking to you today if
That's
Thank
amazing.
you
you.
That's
didn't
amazing.
follow your intuition and give me those pink. You were like, I don't even know why I'm telling you this or where this is coming from, but I just feel the need to share. And so I'm really glad you did.
Just another validation for Luca that she's doing very well when she's reading Akashic
Oh,
records.
oh
Because she
yes.
still feels
Yeah.
very like, I don't think you feel confident in that yet.
In the Akashic Records, no,
Yeah.
not so much.
Yeah,
No.
I know.
Mm,
But Megan,
interesting.
from the point of a projector, I'm still not sure about like what does it mean to wait for an invitation. I'm like
Mm.
when people ask me to explain that, I'm not a projector, so it's even harder. But how does it feel like for you? How would you explain it from the projector's point of view, being a human design
Yeah.
practitioner?
Yeah, so it can be a tricky one, and it's one that is often met with some like bitterness when projectors hear it. Like, what do you mean? I'm just supposed to like sit around and wait for people to invite me to things? And no, it's going out into the world and sharing your gifts. And from that, the universe will respond with invitations. I'll use this as an example.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how Raluca like found out I was got into human design. I'm not like, I changed my bio on Instagram, and like, as you know, changing your bio doesn't notify anybody, right? But that was me putting myself out into the universe and being like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to label myself this thing. I'm going to create an offering. And the right people saw it. And I have been not only just invited on this podcast because of it, and I haven't marketed myself at all yet, by the way. I have a wait list for human design readings,
That's so
just
cool.
Oh
just
my
from
God,
talking about
amazing.
it. Like, just from
Amazing.
talking about it. So that's the magic of the invitation, is doing the things you're really good at, putting yourself in the spaces and around the people, especially for me with the 4-6, and having my network be the my community and network be the people I'm here to influence. And those are the people that are going to bring me success. So that's what I'm doing. I'm talking about it with my friends. I'm doing readings so they can give me referrals. So, like, it's really in the application of our gifts that the universe is going to start bringing us invitations. So it's not passive at all. It's a very active task. But yeah, it's funny. I think in the few projectors that I've read, we've been able to go back in time and evaluate some of the invitations they've received, like job offers, for example, where like they didn't apply, but they got invited because, like, they got invited to interview because somebody saw the way they were doing their work, and really, thought they were good at it. So gave them a shot at an interview. For me, with my husband, we were friends first, and things weren't really like working out with timeline wise with like becoming more than friends. So it was like, I was just like, you know what, we'll just stay friends and see what happens. And like, it was just in the me being myself, he was like, okay, we have to be more than friends and make this work. Like, it was just like, that's in a relationship sense. But like, I see that as it was an invitation. I didn't force it. I didn't push for it. I didn't initiate. I didn't, like all the things that other kind of designs can do and find success in. I sat back and I just offered my support as a friend. And he was like, I need more of that. So,
But why do you
yeah.
go with, like, let's say if there is a person who's a there's a guy who's a projector, is he not gonna propose to his girlfriend or his like partner to? How does it work really if the guy is projector? Like, does he make the first move, or he has to sit there and wait to be proposed to?
No, I think so. You can kind of create your own invitation as well. That's what I believe in. And it's through the questions you ask. And, so it would be, having a conversation first, maybe, and ensuring that you guys are kind of on the same page before doing it. You know what I mean? Like, not coming out of the woodwork all of a sudden with a proposal. It could be like, if I were to propose, like, what do you think? Or, are we on the same path? So I always see it as like, if you're coming to the table to change to change the energy dynamics of any relationship or job or anything out into the world, that's where you need to wait for the invitation, or wait till you feel like you match that energy before you can put yourself there. So yeah.
So really kind of feel, and of course the projectors have that amazing tool that they can see through you, they can see into you and understand exactly what's happening to the person that's in front of them. How does it work like for you? And when you find out that your projector, was it like a change in it? Were you able to feel it better, understand it better? Or like, was it always inside of you and you were just like, oh yeah, this is how I am?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think my my nature has always been to kind of sit back and listen. And, I do think that came a little bit from conditioning and my ability to see in other people always being met with like, oh my gosh, she's too much, she's too sensitive, or like, don't look, like, when you look at me, you're really looking at me, so stop looking at me. Like, so I kind of kept myself, a bit small, and I lived in the shadow of it for a bit, which made it easier for me to then, knowing this information, knowing that I should kind of take like a higher perspective on things before I give my opinion. It was just validating for me, really. It already aligned with kind of how I was living. So I find it really easy to take a back seat a bit and allow all the information to come to me before waiting for that invitation to speak.
But also from the projector's point of view, like, I know a lot of projectors, they just like, I don't know what I'm good at, I don't know what's my talents are, how am I going to even share them if I have no idea, I'm not good at anything. So what would you suggest to those projectors who cannot really figure out what they're good at to show it to people?
I would ask people, first of all, in your life, what do you think I'm good at? Because sometimes, especially if you have a 2 in your profile, things come so naturally to you. You might not even understand that it's your gift, right? And in your chart, we can see what your gifts are. But if you're feeling stuck, my number one advice is to go out into the world. Just go do something you like, a hobby. Go move your body. Go out into nature. Like, change your environment. If you're doing the same routine every day, you're not going to be inspired to look at life and the things you're doing in any different way than you're already doing it. So I often think people, you have to make some kind of change in your day-to-day routine to start noticing what's going on around you and how you're impacting the world around you.
Okay. So yes,
Yeah.
to the projectors over there, you need to change your routine, because I also know, I mean, I've heard a lot of time, if the projector has a hard time waking up in the morning, it means he or she are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that's why there is no energy. And how are you gaining your energy, since you're not an energy type? Like, based on your experience, where do you think the energy for the projector comes in from?
From doing what fulfills me, honestly. Right now, I have a 9 to 5 and I'm doing my own business outside of that. And so it's very, like, if you looked at me from the outside, you'd be like, there's no way she's a projector. But I have energy for the things that make me feel good, that feel good in my body, the things that my authority says yes to. And when you find those things and you find that alignment, that's where the energy comes in. And also honoring rest. So true rest. Like, when your body says it needs it, are you doing it? Are you sleeping okay at night? Sometimes projectors need to sleep in their own aura. So sometimes it's sleeping alone if you have a partner, But yeah, I would find, as a projector, putting myself in the spaces that feel that fulfill me, that help me live out my purpose, having conversations like these, like I will ride this for the rest of the day, you know, like this is what gives me my energy.
And what does true rest feel like for you, or what does it look like for you?
It's turning off everything. It's literally turning off the lights and putting my head under the covers. It can also be going for a walk or going for a drive. It can also be just listening to music or journaling. For me as a parent, just any kind of time alone feels like rest to me. I'm going to be digging more into finding somewhere I can go on a short-term basis, whether it's just like once every few weeks, so I can go just like be in my own aura for like 24 hours, because that rest is going to bring so much energy and creativity potential that I like haven't even been able to tap yet, just being so busy. So I'm excited.
And if you were by yourself in your own aura for 24 hours, what would you do?
Oh my gosh. I don't know yet.
Would you like turn off all phones and like no TV
for sure.
and just be
for sure.
in a bubble of writing? Would you be
I'd
reading?
probably do like 3 hours of breath work and have some like deep transformative experience, which sounds like hard work, but truly is just like, I mean, it's medicine, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm really into being with myself these days and just being in my own thoughts. And I think the more rest I have and the clearer I can get with myself, with my messaging, with what I'm passionate about, the more grounded I feel in my body, the better I'm able to serve and have conversations with the people I'm here to help. So I'm really working on myself to continue to be the clearest channel possible so I can show up for as many people as possible.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love knowing how, other people rest and how other people get recharged, because I find that so inspirational. Like sometimes you just run out of ideas. Like, how are we supposed to be resting right now? So it's so nice to
sometimes I color in my kids' coloring books. Like, yeah. Even that is just like, I just, drink water and color.
That's a good one. I was just saw on Instagram Wim Hof put on like a little reel that he's like, it started like a project with my son, and now I'm like so into it, and he just colors like advent calendar. He's just like draws on it, which is why I'm like, oh, that's a good practice.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, anything to connect us to our inner child too, which I find I need more of as a pretty serious human. Anything I can do to connect to my inner child really brings out my compassion and creativity.
That's nice. Yes, I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
We don't connect to our inner child nearly enough.
No. And, in my facilitator training, I went a breathwork facilitator training. I went in thinking, I'm just going to learn how to hold space for others. And I was so wrong. It was like the most transformative experience of my life, where, having done like quote unquote the work for the past, whatever it was at that point, 8 months, I was like, oh, I was feeling so good. I was like, oh, I've healed so many parts of myself. I'm so much more in my body, like all these things. And then I do, it was 3 days in a row of conscious connected breath work, which is intense breath work, very active breath work, and it takes you out of your head, puts you in your body. The very first night, I crack open, I swear to you, my inner child is now outside of me, like sitting next to me. And she's showing me all the, I don't want to call it trauma, but like, it was all of these things that happened to me or all of these labels given to me by authorities when I was young that I was still hanging on to that were holding me back.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I went in thinking I'm here for other people, and it ended up being for me. And it was truly the thing that flipped me from like, I don't know if I'm on the right path. Who am I to think I can mentor or coach anybody? Like, I have an open ego. So self-worth is like a really common theme in my life, lack of self-worth. And
yeah, we can relate.
yeah, and it flipped it though. It went like for me at the end of those 2 weekends, it was like I felt so much more connected to myself. I healed parts of that inner child that I needed to heal so that I could, again, show up here today and have this conversation and feel like I'm worthy enough to have it.
Yeah, you definitely are. You definitely are. I can
Oh,
tell you for sure. On the ego, I wanted to ask you
yes.
that so when the ego is open, that's like affects the self-worth, and we are not really like we don't have the willpower,
Willpower.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. But when it's closed, I know people who has that's like closed or like defined, and they still might have some low self-worth and things like that. Is it correlate? Does it like what is that? Why is that?
Yeah, I would say that's a disconnect in some way or some conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we have a center defined, there's still a wisdom and a shadow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, just the way if it's open, there's, you're living in in the shadow of the open ego, it's you don't feel worthy, all of that language. In the shadow of a defined will center, there could be this pressure you have on yourself to show up in a certain way that was modeled to you with a certain conditioning, and it's like you're not applying yourselves to the right things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
you might have been influenced to, I don't know, like be a doctor, and you have all of this willpower to become a doctor, but are you supposed to be a doctor? Like, maybe
Oh, that
not.
makes
So
sense.
yeah,
Yes.
so like, are you gonna feel like, is that going to help you feel worthy if you're in the wrong vocation? Probably not. Just because you have a defined ego doesn't mean it's, applied to the right thing. And again, that's where we should connect back to our authority, like what feels good.
Projector, a generator, and a manifester
I
together.
I
know.
know. We missing reflector, the only person.
Yeah, we're missing.
My husband's a reflector actually, which is
Oh,
really
how is it
interesting.
working for you guys with a reflector and a projector?
It's so good to know what we are, because this is what I love about partnership readings is it takes away the like personalization of somebody's personality traits that you're just like why are you being this way towards me, or like why can't you do this, and it's like knowing your design takes away that tension, right? Like it's like, oh, you're not doing this because you see me a certain way or to me or because of me, you're just designed this way.
Yeah.
So like being with a reflector and understanding he needs like a lunar cycle to make a decision, like an important decision. Great information to have, right? And it makes so much sense. So what I love is like I can give him that space to go through his cycle, and
I know. As
Did
a
you see that?
manifester, to me,
Did
it's like I cannot believe how they live like this because I need to make decisions. Like I make decisions just like immediately. Like I don't really,
Mhm.
and if I don't, then my head gets in, and then it's like even
Yeah,
more complicated. So for me, a decision
yeah,
needs to be made right away. So
yeah.
to wait for the whole lunar cycle.
it make sense when you found out his human design? Like, did you already see that happening, that it would take like a month to make important decisions?
Yeah, it's really funny. He and this is in his design too, is because all of his in when you're a reflector, all of your energy centers are undefined. So he takes in and he seeks information from other sources, but he doesn't need it to make the decision. Like, that's not what's going to help him make the decision. The time is what's going to help him move through all of the emotions. So he likes the support from like hearing other perspectives, but those perspectives are never going to influence his final decision, which is funny because so when he had this decision to either like propose to me and we settle down or go play pro hockey in Europe. And it was like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I know. So it was like, and I was like, whatever you want to do, man. I'm not going to stop you from doing all that. So he truly needed to make the decision. And it took him weeks to make it. So I was like, just waiting, like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? But, yeah, it worked out for me.
Yeah, for sure. But is he, as a reflector, when he makes the decision, he's really satisfied with it, right? There's no like, oh my God, I made the decision, I'm regretting. So if the person who's a reflector waiting for that whole lunar cycle, then the decision is really grounded and rooted and it's the right decision, right? Is that how it works?
Yes. Yeah. And it's, it's not with every decision. It's major decisions like jobs, relationships, moving, like, the major things. And yeah, so grounded in it, like, so not a doubt, like, is how I've experienced it with him. Like, he's so sure of himself, which is really nice for him. Yeah. As someone with like emotional wait for clarity authority, like, I only really get to like 80% clarity. Like, it's not 100%. So there's always that little like, there's always a little gap there I wish I could close, but that's just not the way it works. So I'm meant to, I build that. I'm experimenting, and the more I experiment with what feels like a yes or what feels like clarity, the more evidence I have of what clarity feels like in my body. So again, it's just part of the experiment.
So I actually wanted to ask about emotional authority because I understand that like conceptually from what you read from it, but I want to know what it feels like to like actually be an emotional authority and in alignment. So for you, when it says wait for that wave of emotion to pass, like what does that feel like? How long do you usually have to wait to make a decision?
Yes. So for me, I like to call it wait for clarity. That's how my mentor kind of described it to me. So it's, when you're presented with something and you get this like really excited high and you're like, yeah, that sounds amazing. I want to do that. And then you wake up the next day and you're like, I have no energy or time, or like that sounds awful. I don't actually want to do that. That's kind of that wave they talk about. So for me, usually a good night's sleep is enough time to find clarity. And what clarity feels like is like, so because I've done a lot of like energy work and I'm very in my body, when I feel too excited about something, I'll lean really far into it. Like, and for a sacral authority, the leaning can actually be a sign of your yes and no. Like, you might find your body, when you're feeling like a yes or lit up or a yes response, your body might kind of like pull towards it or move back from it if you're like, no, that
like
doesn't
physically.
feel good.
You mean
Physically,
like physically?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Physically,
That's really
yeah.
cool.
So I find, so not to like, I will get back to emotional, but what I really love about sacral and what's a really fun experiment is to get people in your life to ask you yes or no questions as opposed to open-ended questions. It's a much better way to gain clarity about what feels good for you and what doesn't. So, and just like doing that practice and exercising and notice how your body actually moves. And I feel like you will notice, and you'll flex that muscle and you'll get really clear about what a yes feels like in your body and what a no. I wish I had that sometimes. I'm like, your body's like a pendulum. Like, it's like,
I know, but then we really stifle it if we're ignoring those no's. And sometimes it takes a lot of bravery to say no. To be like, no, I don't want to do this because I just don't feel like it,
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Or the pressure, especially depending on what centers you have undefined or opened, right? So for clarity for me feels like I'm not too attached to the outcome.
Okay.
So I'm not like, if I say yes to this, it's going to like prove my worth. It's going to make the other person feel good. I'm not doing it for the other. So for me, it really comes down to that. Am I saying yes to prove something? Am I really attached to the outcome of that still? And if I feel very attached to the outcome of that yes or no, I'm not ready to make the decision. I don't have clarity yet. So that's what it feels like for me.
It's not just a negative emotion. It's like like positive emotion too. You get like super excited, and then sometimes that excitement is not really the right way to go.
So it's like if you're with a generator and a generator is like lit up by something, then you would pull on that energy and you think it's a yes, but really it's a no.
Potentially. Yes, potentially. So I try not to make any decisions around other people. I go into my own aura, I sleep on it, and that usually is enough to bring me clarity. But yeah, if I'm in an environment with lots of people or even just a generator, I'm going to feed off of that energy and I'm going to be just excited as you. And then I'm going to get out of your aura and be like, absolutely. That sounds very tiring and like an overcommitment. So,
and on the flip side, if it's like a lower emotion, like if you're really upset, then is it the same thing? Like you wait a night's sleep, or do you wait till that upsetness is gone?
Both, either. So it could be whatever at the end of it. Either way, it's at the end of it, if I don't feel super attached to the outcome of saying yes or no, whether it's from a place of feeling I felt really good or really bad about it yesterday, clarity feels like the same in either scenario. Yeah. Yeah.
But do you also feel like you feed off, because you said when, like earlier, I said you were on a generator and you can kind of like get onto their wave. Do you feel as a projector that you can often get into the wave of others? Like literally you're not, you just kind of like feed off of the energy of others. Like, so I'm a manifestor and my partner is a projector. And I feel that I'm like, he feeds off of me and he kind of like follows my decisions versus like to separate himself and kind of like be in his own space and make his own decisions. Not major, but like I kind of feel like I'm influencing him more than like I should or something. I don't know.
I mean, that could come down to so many things in your partnership chart. I would say that's probably less to do with sacral energy and maybe to do more with.
We actually both splenic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you wouldn't have your sacral defined,
Yeah.
and neither would he. It could be more to do with your defined and undefined energy centers. That's what I would look at. If you have a defined root and he doesn't, he could feel like a certain pressure from you, essentially, to make a decision, and then he just like goes and goes to agree with you because he feels that pressure, but it's not necessarily the decision he would have made. Like there's many different like things in a composite chart, which are so fascinating, the way we light each other up, that he could feel pressure from other centers to make a decision.
Yeah, I try to like, sometimes I notice that because I'm a manifestor, so through my voice I influence people even if I don't want to influence people. It just happens. And I usually try to pull back and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like separate myself to make sure I'm not really influencing him, because it's not what I want this relationship to be. Like I want each of us to be grounded in our authority and making the decisions and move forward as the two whole beings without like really pulling on each other. But I don't think it's really possible. I think we do come together for certain things, and you're right. I think it's very important to do the relationship chart to figure out what channels are connecting us and what centers are dominating each other.
Yeah, there's that, and there's like certain things you should work together on, and certain things where we should lean on you more, or certain things we should lean on him more for, right?
Mhm.
So it can be pretty fascinating.
So do you offer partnership chart readings?
I've done a couple. I haven't done many, but I absolutely can and love to.
Do you
Yeah,
enjoy them?
I do. Yeah, I think I love any application of human design. Um, I've recently been getting into the transits. Like you can really, much like astrology, the transits light up different parts of our charts. So actually on my 32nd birthday earlier this year, my chart was lit up in a way where my sacral was defined. So my birthday reading for this year was I have access actually to some sacral energy from the transits. And that really has played out in how much I've been able to accomplish this year.
So you really can
Yeah.
do, like in astrology, they do like a year on reading on like around
Mhm.
birthdays. So you can actually do that for people too. Like you can, through the transits, you can kind of like predict what
Yeah.
to pay attention to that year in certain areas, right?
Yeah, I mean, it goes down to the day too. So, like, today we could be sampling gate 5, let's say, and so we all have access to that energy today, and it's good to lean into, whatever that
Oh my
is.
gosh.
Yeah,
Okay, next year Pluto is
I
moving into
know.
Aquarius. So I'm so
Yeah.
curious to what this will do in our charts, like in our human design charts.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it, but I'm just getting into it, and it's fascinating. It's so fascinating because we have channels in human design, and channels are, you have both gifts on either end that connect into a channel, and so that's a specific gift you have. But we also have hanging gates where we don't have the other half of that channel. So we have to be around other people in order to access the balance of that gift or that energy. And so every day as we move through the planets, it can actually complete those certain channels for us where we just have like a hanging gate and not a channel.
Oh.
And I just feel like having that information, knowing the energy you can tap into for the day is really, really interesting. It really intrigues me. It really intrigues me.
So if the person doesn't really know the gifts, they can look at maybe those gates and channels and figure out what are their gifts. Is that the possibility?
Yeah. And I I don't want it to be, I don't want your design to be prescriptive or dogmatic. Like I want it to resonate with you. So I'm never going to sit in a session and be like, you have this gift, go use it. I'm going to inquire about it. I'm going to be like, you actually do have access to this energy. How do you feel like it plays out in your life? Like, let's get into it, right? Because I don't want you to feel like I'm giving you brand new information that just doesn't resonate. Like that's not empowering and that's not helpful. And it's never going to tell you the best way to apply it either. So it's going to be really that alignment and that practical advice piece is taking a look at your life and going, okay, I have these gifts, I have these channels that are available to me. How can I make them work in my life? And that's the piece that I find like it's the harder part, obviously. Like if I tell you the definition of a gift you have or a channel you have, sorry, you're like, oh yeah, cool, that's cool. But if we can like talk about your life a little bit and what you're doing, if we can talk about where you're meeting some resistance in your life and where you're like, I just don't feel like I'm in flow. I don't feel like I'm in flow in my business. Something is, I can be like, okay, well, here are the gifts or the channels you have. How can we apply that practically? And that's the part that is hard to do on your own. And like, it really helps to have the support of someone who understands human design to help you get there.
Especially someone who can see right through you with their aura.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Everyone has a gift that's the strongest, and it's the gift that's in your sun sign, your sun personality, which is the conscious part of your chart, the first planet. When you're looking at your full chart, there'll be a gift there, and that's your strongest, or gate gift. I use them interchangeably. That gate is your strongest gate. and it forms your incarnation cross. It's the first number of your incarnation cross. And so this often isn't something, people are going to resonate with until they're in their 30s, have lived, or, starting to transition from like an ego from their sun sign to their rising. There's so many layers to this, but essentially my strongest gift is sensing people's needs before they know they need them, which is and a projected gift too. So I can't be like, I can see where you're out of alignment. I'm going to tell you why. Like, it needs to be invited, right? So I might see something, and that's why I find conversations in human design reading, like, the value I can bring really comes from understanding where you're meeting resistance and what's going on, so I can help alchemize that resistance.
I love that. So and you said it's connected to your sun sign. So is that connected to you being like an Aquarius, or is that like a different, more connected with the gate? So each Aquarius would have a different one.
Yeah, each Aquarius would have a different one. It's not connected that way. It's just kind of what was transiting at the time of your birth, where your sun was. Yeah, it's
so if I'm looking at the chart, it would be in the red column, right?
Yeah, everyone's chart's different. It's on all the colors are different on wherever you're running it from. But the right-hand side of your chart is your conscious. The numbers so you have your body graph, right? And then you have
the right side and the left side. Okay, so if I'm looking at the right side, and it's like the little kind of like like a O with the little thing, that's the sun side, correct?
Yeah.
And if it says like 60.6, which number am I looking at?
60. So 60 is your strongest gift, your gate. Yeah.
And where would we find that information? Like, is that...
so I can pull yours up for you if you want.
Yeah, like just give us
an example. I don't have them all memorized.
Of course, yes, but like how would the person go about it? So if the person got the chart, we're looking at that chart and the number is 60, that is the strongest gift. And I'm looking at it's like in my root, 60 is in my root chakra, I guess, right? Root center. But it's not connected. It's like the gate is open.
Yeah,
oh my God, this is so complicated.
I know.
For somebody to decode it themselves. I came across Human Design in 2017. I touched on it and was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm a manifestor 6-2. So I was just kind of like tapping into that very, very gently. And in 2019, I got more deep into it, and I'm still learning and I'm still discovering. And it's still, obviously, it's not my main tool, and I'm not thinking of becoming a human design reader. It's just like a part of my complexion, but it's like I want to know for myself.
I know.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. Another one of my gifts, I have the channel of logic, and it's like taking really complicated ideas and putting them in a language people can understand. So I really think, and as a projector, systems really get us going. So it's like learning this system, and then, that's why I take my readings very like with, so much responsibility, because I can kind of look at it and see so many parts, and getting all that information in one reading is like not helpful. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of layers. So again, it's that having that conversation to be like, what's going to be the most potent information for you today? But they say it takes 7 years to decondition. Like once you know your design, it can take 7 years of experimenting. 7 years. Yeah.
Okay. So let me see. 23 minus 2017. 6. I have 1 more year to go.
I know. It's a lot.
I know. So Raluca's is 55. So mine is 60 and Raluca's 55. So if you can just give us a little bit of a overview, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So gate 60 is the gate of newness. So yeah, you may, and it's funny. It's so funny that your gates are 60 and 55. Okay. I'll get into it.
Why?
I know, like cliffhanger now.
I know.
It just makes sense for what you're doing in this world. that you have these gates. So gate 60 is the gate of newness. You may feel driven to bring newness into the world. Desire to transcend limitations that stand in the way of innovation. You might feel restless if nothing is happening. Your energy, pulse on and off and move between like momentum and melancholy. And the lesson there is, just to accept where you are, trusting there's value in all of it.
Oh my God, this is the hardest.
I know.
That sounds so much like you.
I know, it sounds so much like me. But does it mean that I innovate new things? Is that what it means, the newness, or I just like new things?
I would interpret this. I mean, I think it's looking at our, like the way I read this is looking at our systems and seeing the limitations and having that drive you to do things in new ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Right, Raluca? It sounds exactly like me.
I know.
And I get very restless if like I have to follow the system and the structure.
Yes.
I want to like break to pieces if I have to like follow the system.
And you want to create something completely new.
Yeah.
The future. Mm-hmm. That's also your Aquarius investor.
Oh, you're an Aquarius too. Oh boy. That makes sense. I feel it. It's so funny. I feel the same way. I'm like, I have, with the gate 49, I've been diving into the gene keys, which is where the gates come from. Ooh. And it's really comes down to like the mutation of, individuals, but also the planet. And I feel that from, as an Aquarius, that humanity perspective is like, I do like this individual work, but like, I want to revolutionize something and as we enter into the age of Aquarius, it feels like I need to do it all right now. Like it's so important. Like I can't do it fast enough. So it's funny to feel that pressure. And the thing with gate 60 is like, you can't always control when the change comes. So one of the biggest lessons is waiting for the right moment for that change.
Which is, I think, is the most difficult because I want it all now.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about the 55?
So I was just going to say gate 3 is the balance of that gate, which is the energy to bring order and structure out of confusion. And that patience to be like, when do I attack with this new thing? So it could be really helpful for you to be around people with gate 3.
Gate 3.
Gate 3. So you can tap into that energy.
That's really cool.
And that's the energy of like waiting for the right moment, allowing you to bring that newness. Gate 55. It is the gate of fullness. So you're here to learn to embrace the fullness of life, the highs and the lows. You may find you are deeply acoustic and naturally musical and romantic. You may find you're sensitive to what's being said. And it could be key in this case not to take things personally. It's important to, with this one, because it's on your solar plexus, try not to make sense of your moods. So really like understanding there's a reason for your ups and downs and for needing to go into like your hermit mode and not making sense of it. Don't apply logic to it. You may feel like a fear of emptiness and get nervous if you don't know what to be passionate about. Like you're like, I'm trying to do this thing, I'm trying to create this thing, but like you could have this fear essentially if you don't know what that thing is. And the other side of that gate, do you know if it's a channel for you or just the gate?
It's a gate. It's not a channel.
Yeah. So the other side of that is gate 39, which is the drive and fuel to express your emotions. So people who bring out, who can provoke you essentially to express your emotions is where you balance that gate of fullness, embracing those highs and lows, understanding that again, this is part of your purpose. So that 6-2, like showing us what it means to live in the wisdom of that gate is part of your purpose, which this one's so beautiful. Like,
That's so interesting
yeah.
because also I'm all water in my chart. Like my sun, moon, and rising are all water. So I am a very emotional person.
Mm-hmm.
But then I always feel, yeah, like I'm too emotional and it just goes up and down too much. And
Yeah, no such thing for you, Raluca. Here's how I view humanity, like in general. I've seen enough charts to know we are all so unique, and we're all here. We have this blueprint essentially that's showing us how to best use our energy to fulfill our purpose. And I think we have a responsibility to live out that purpose. Because if we are all, as individuals, fulfilled, happy, inspired, living in our purpose, going through life in flow, when we come together as a community, as a world, as a humanity in that's world peace, essentially, right? Like, if we are all living in the highest expression of what it means to be in our body, in our human design, just whatever feels good to us, doesn't matter what you believe in, that is where, and I don't want to sound, I'm very optimistic about the future in general. And that comes down to a piece of my design as well and how I view the world. But I truly believe that is what is going to unlock. The more people that live according to what feels good and what is in flow for them, the better humanity gets in as a whole. And, you know, I'm a realist also. So like, I know we chose to be in these bodies to have this human experience, and we're not going to be able to escape the spectrum of between joy and pain. And things are going to happen that we can't control. But if in between those moments, we can live where we feel fully expressed, that is the point. That is my purpose, to help us get there, to help as many people in this life as we can get there. And I love this individual client work. 20 years from now, though, it's going to, I want to start a revolution. I want human design in schools. I want authorities to understand the uniqueness of every child that they have, you know, control over, that they're educating, that they're putting labels on, because it's, you know, it's just, it's so important that we start treating children for the unique people they are, and stop trying, and even as adults, we are in boxes as well, right? So the less we can rely on people outside of us and institutions outside of us to tell us who we are, the more peaceful we can be, the more compassion we can have for each other, and the less pain and suffering we will have. And so, again, I'll do this client one-on-one work for as long as I can, but it needs to go beyond. We need to Age of Aquarius it. We need to, like, our therapists need to know our human design. It needs to be really, it needs to be ingrained in everything. And there will be a new order. I see it in the work we're doing, in more healers are coming out, in more people who are doing work from the heart, creating communities and connections that I feel like even 5-10 years ago would have been looked at as like, or labeled as like too woo-woo or too outside the box. And like, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm in this space now, but I feel more people starting to turn inwards, right? And stop looking to society and institutions to tell them who they are. So I definitely feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it already. And that's part of my job as a projector, to help guide people, I guess, into that next paradigm.
I agree. And more of us are being called as healers for that to be our focus, to get people to listen more to themselves and trust their intuition and get to know who they really are.
Get back into their bodies, which I think is what we're all doing in some way, right? Connecting people to their inner wisdom.
Yes. Yeah, because body is, I mean, we used to really kind of like be in the bodies when like before, right, when people were connected to nature more, when we're like before the industrial revolution, before it all became like brain, and now we're just coming back to it and discovering it more and connecting to it more. But yeah, I found that the biggest issue is with everyone is just like we're not connected to our bodies. And I used to be so disconnected for the longest time, to the point when I started doing the work, I even noticed that I would do things like I would not go to the bathroom until it's like, oh my God, I have to go to the bathroom now. So I would not feel the
literally same
signs. Or like I noticed I burned myself, and for a few moments I'm like, oh, I burned myself, but I don't feel anything. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I feel it now. So I would be like totally stepping out of the body when there is a pain and or some sort of a discomfort, and just like, oh, I'm spiritual, I'm hanging up here in my spiritual world, but not so much in the body. But body is really the key.
Well, I just wanted to ask what advice you have for people just entering into human design, like who want to know themselves better or understand themselves better. How do you advise them to start?
If you're just wanting to know some basic information about your human design, I mean, there's lots available online. The best way to learn how it applies to you or get the holistic kind of view of everything together and how that works for you is a reading. But I would say of more importance, the advice I would give when you're reading it or you're digging into your human design is take what resonates, leave the rest. I find some stuff we're not ready to hear. Some stuff we can only truly align with once we're in alignment with, kind of the basic things like our strategy and our authority. I will say we can only really digest information from a place of rest. And so from a general advice perspective, some of the most profound things I've learned as going on this journey myself is we cannot learn anything about ourselves from outside ourselves. So we really need to get back into our body. We need to integrate learnings and embody them. And the only way we can do that is slow down, right? Like we all need to slow down a bit. So don't think that like reading your design is going to change your life. It can. I'm not saying like it could, I guess, momentarily be this like, oh my gosh, this like aha moment. I love those. I have them. I still have them as I go through my chart. But don't expect the information to be enough. Really slow down and sit with it and integrate it as much as you can and have fun with it. Like experiment. And again, at the beginning of the year, I was really looking outside myself for the answers from like, the Akashic records. I was going in probably with the wrong mindset, right? Same mindset when I read my human design was like, I want this to tell me exactly what to do. But my advice there would be, you just have to keep going inwards, and journaling on your open and undefined centers can be really helpful. Doing grounding practices for those centers so you can really connect to them again. And like finding the support in your life, the right supportive people, practitioners, healers, friends, therapists, whatever it is, to bounce these things off of can be really, really helpful. And everything, the third thing I would say, I guess, is like everything finds us in divine timing when we're meant to find it. So, I don't think I could have reached the alignment I feel today if I didn't go on that full journey to get here. And it's not over. It's just started. There's no end to the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is no end to the journey because
There is.
I get restless, right? Like I'm just want to get to the good part. I mean, like all of it is the good part, but you like want to get to like the finish line where you've like mastered it and you
What are you
just
going to do
brought
at the finish line, Raluca?
exactly. Then I'm like, oh, we got here. Now what?
But it's
That's
like
no fun.
there is no end, and it's like you go from level to level to level to level, like any video game, right? You just like you finish next level. I mean, you finish one level, and then you go to the next, and then you go to the next, and it's like never
And you enjoy
ending.
the video game. It's like it's the process. It's fun.
I
Exactly.
wonder, Raluca, if you're using enough of your energy during the day. Like you should feel satisfied, not restless, right? Like you should feel like you fully used all of your sacral energy in a day and feel fully satisfied with it.
Yeah. So I would say it's like a mental restless. Like right now I feel on the low energy
Gotcha.
side of a generator. So I do feel kind of depleted, but my mind is like, I want to go.
Yeah.
So I need to build up my energy a bit.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see your chart and like your defined and undefined. I think, and again, learning more about your gate 55 and understanding that the ebb and flow and the highs and lows are what you're here to teach us to move through.
Okay, we're gonna have to have another
I know.
recording. So we're gonna send you our charts, and then maybe like you can. So for people who are listening, maybe they can go in and kind of like go off of that and pay attention and figure out. But I know it's really hard to figure out on your own. But what would you suggest? Like for the gates, right? For those, where would we look for it? Is there like a book or a website that people can go to, and like any resources that you could suggest for those who would like to start exploring and kind of get into it? How did you get into it? Like what did you do? Like where did you go?
Yeah, I started with Jenna Zoe. She has an app where you can run your chart and it'll show what all your gates are and a little bit of an explanation. If you individually search for your gates on Google, you will get blogs here and there. I, obviously learned from my formal education in it, but there's also a book from Richard Rudd called The Gene Keys, and that's where human design gets its gates. And it has like a 4-page kind of deep dive into the shadow and the wisdom of each of them. So it's a lot to digest. We have a lot of gates, but I wouldn't advise like gates being the first thing you kind of go into, just because your gates are off of your energy centers and they make more sense kind of with context too. So understanding your energy centers is helpful.
So where did you learn your human design? Did you start with books? Did you go to like some sort of a school?
Yeah, I did. I started with books, and then I did trainings. I'm still in trainings actually, with Erin Claire Jones. So she's a human design expert. She's been doing it for like a decade. So been formal training with her.
Any books you can recommend to start with?
Yeah, the first one I ever started with was Karen Curry Parker's Human Design book. And Jenna Zoe just put one out that's really good. You can buy it and run your chart and kind of just read the sections that apply to you, the gifts and the energy centers and authorities and just the basic things, but it's enough to be to work with essentially your profile and everything. That's a great book. And yeah, I've just been diving into Richard Rudd's Gene Keys, which is a big one.
I follow everybody you mentioned on Instagram, and it's so fun. Like, every time I see like a post that resonates, I'm like, I send it to my friends. I'm like, oh, here's to my many friends.
I get
those.
I know. Like, okay, good. All this information, and yes, and we will put everything in the notes, so whoever's listening, you guys can go and check it out.
Yeah.
And
Erin Claire has she has courses too you can do if you really want to like get to know. Yeah. Just courses you can do on your own. Yeah.
it's really cool to like dive in and start exploring yourself. First of all, it's not, you
It
don't necessarily have
is.
to be like a practitioner, but I know a
No.
lot of people who starting with themselves and they're like, oh, I need to spread the word. I need to spread the joy.
Well, there's so many applications in coaching and mentoring and healing, in therapy, in school, in work, corporate teams. Like you can literally use it anywhere. So I love the practical language it uses, especially Erin Claire. Yeah, I've tried to study astrology and it's like it's a language I just can't understand. So this for me really resonated.
Nice, wonderful. Any last words before we wrap up for today?
I would just say, if if you read your design and there's parts that feel confronting, let yourself feel that and know that you're not doing anything wrong. You haven't been doing anything wrong. We are truly like when I say conditioned and programmed to think and feel a certain way, all of us are, whether we're feeling fulfilled or not, we've all been living in the same society. So don't be hard on yourself and reach out to, I'd say like if you're, looking to integrate, look into somatic therapy, get back in your body, look into energetic work as the next step.
And tell everybody where they can find you and how they can work with you.
Yeah, so my Instagram is inward.exhale and my website, you can contact me, theinwardexhale.com.
I love the name. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Megan, for being here. We learned so much today about human design and how we can apply it to our everyday lives. And we learned about Megan's journey and what she does in her work and how she combines breath work and human design together to create a beautiful, holistic, supportive package. So if you would like to reach out and work with her, just check out the links below. And we'll connect with you next time.